Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
And we can begin by doing a roll call, so our recording secretary will know who all's here.
Sure. Warren Biggins, Phillips Exeter.
Rod Borden, Exeter.
Lionel Ingram, Exeter.
Richard Huber, Exeter.
Nico Peppercorson, D, Select Board Rep from Exeter.
Dan Jones, Exeter.
Trevor Matera, Concom rep from Exeter.
Terry Harmon, Exeter.
Thank you. Okay, so everybody needs to have their microphone close to their mouth so they can be recorded. All right, so the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the March 21st meeting. Has everybody looked them over?
Yep.
I have a little issue on page 3, about the middle of the page, line 92, where it says, currently the dam lowers dissolved oxygen and is rated, what is that, CLB? Impaired for aquatic life. I couldn't decode that acronym, so if that can be fixed, that would be nice. Does anybody else know what that's saying? Okay,
Just put a question mark behind it.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, any comments on page 1, page 2? That was page 3, and then there's 4 and 5. Okay, so,
I move to approve.
As amended.
As amended.
amended.
Yes, thank you.
I'll second that.
okay, so that was Lionel and Nico. And let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All abstaining? Okay, it passed. So that's the draft minutes from the previous meeting, which was a long time ago. The next item on the agenda is to hear about updates on river-related issues from Paul.
Hello, Paul Velocich, the town engineer. Before I give you an update on other river issues, I'd like to ask Kristen Murphy to come on up. She's got a pretty important function in a couple of days, and I think she wants to talk about that a little bit. Thank you.
This wouldn't have anything to do with the ALY
Thank you all. Kristen Murphy, Conservation and Sustainability Planner for the town of Exeter, and I'll keep it brief. But Saturday, I just want to make sure you're all aware, Saturday is our Alewife Festival. It's down at Founders Park from 10 to 1. And this year, it's much bigger than it had been in other years. We have the typical that we've had in the past is 5 town departments participating. We also have 6 different town committees, but beyond that, we have 15 additional partners who are coming along. Some of the fun activities that will feature, as usual, New Hampshire Fish and Game will have some native fish in hand, so you can do an up-close and personal native fish meet and greet. We'll learn about the secret water cleaning skills of oysters. We'll see some water bugs that know how to tell us when water is healthy. We'll have battery-powered lawn care equipment, so if you're curious how a battery-powered leaf blower functions, you'll have an opportunity to try that out, courtesy of RJ's. We'll have several electric vehicles on display, including, I don't know if you've seen it around here, that really funky Tesla truck, which is always a showstopper and kind of like from out of the future. Native pollinator garden kits. We'll be collecting textile donations for the Help See Textile Recycling Program. And then we'll have some of the local photographers that you often see on the community pages. So thank you for indulging me, and I hope we can see you on Saturday, weather permitting.
Not to mention a large number of alewife fish that will cooperate and come through that day, and then the Exeter Air Force, which will be flying overhead looking for lunch.
Well, I don't think we can promise the Air Force, but I'm pretty sure it's looking like the alewives will be there, or
Alewife,
river herring in general.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the
No
seagulls-
flyovers?
No flyovers, unless you count maybe like an osprey.
Okay.
Oh, that would be nice.
A marine osprey?
No.
They don't tend to
not
fly
quite.
well.
Yeah, not quite.
Okay.
Hey,
The feathered variety.
my son designed some.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I brought it over for you already. You know I'm challenged, right? Okay, the next project I'd like to talk about is the siphon project. And at the March meeting, when I was in front of you a couple of days before that, we were about ready to complete the final enlarging of the hole that is being directionally drilled underneath the river for the siphons. And we had a disconnection between the drill head and the drill. And with that, there was some attempts on how to recapture the end. And I think I talked about that the break in the rods that connect the drill head to the drill machine, the disconnection was on the Swayze Parkway side, and it was about where the rods go into the ledge. Right in that interface there was a broke, and the contractor tried to use a couple recapturing tools to get on the end of those rods, and then you still had connections on the mill side of it, and tried to push it out of the hole, but those proved unsuccessful. So there was even attempts to take 8-inch steel casing over on the mill side, weld those together and push those to the drill enlarger, the 18-inch reamer, and move that along, and then try to recapture the end over on Swayze Parkway again. And those proved unsuccessful. So that had to be abandoned. And now there was a different game plan. And if you recall from like the very second week of the whole project a year ago, when they started the original drill, they did not expect ledge over on the mill side of the property. And a couple hundred feet out from the drill machine, they hit ledge. They moved it, they hit ledge again. So trying to come from the Swayze Parkway side, that drill head for rock excavation was too heavy, and it went right down into the bedrock that we already knew was there. But this time, after we had to abandon that 18-inch reamer in the hole that I just talked about, they used the original drill bit, the paddle bit, or like a spoon type of head, and they went from Swayze Parkway, and they actually made it all the way through at a higher elevation. They didn't have to go into the ledge. All the way through over to the opposite side of that little ledge knob that was keeping us from there. So that is good information because now if we're able to get through that ledge, and I think this is going to be the game plan, some plans are getting put together as we speak now, to now try to drill from the mill side of the river. And with that drill, they'll have the rock drill on, drill through the knob, pull it back out, enlarge it, and then be able to get that paddle through, and then go through the softer materials out to the Swayze Parkway side. And when they do that, now they'll still have to enlarge the hole some more, but there's connections on both sides. And so that game plan is being put together right now. Any questions? And that's news for you too, because I just learned of it this morning of what the game plan will be.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Another project, and I'll just talk briefly because it's important to mention, because we're trying to figure out also what we're going to be doing with Pickpocket Dam. And last year, we got approved through a state ARPA grant, and this is a 100% grant to do a feasibility study on the Exeter Reservoir, the Waterworks Dam over at Portsmouth Avenue. Now, that project has not been progressing very fast because we have our consultants, it's the same consultants as the Pickpocket Dam working on Pickpocket. But now that most of that analysis is done, they'll start picking up the Exeter Reservoir Dam analysis. And I say that because the alternatives they come up with that dam is not going to have a dam removal in it, because we got to hold back the water because that's our drinking water, or a source of our drinking water too. And so after Pickpocket Dam, we're going to have to finance another fix to a dam, because this is high hazard. It does not meet discharge requirements, very similar to why we're even talking about Pickpocket Dam. So I just wanted to mention that the analysis will start in earnest, and we should have some results by late summer, early fall, at least preliminary type situation. Okay, and with that, I got to cross my fingers here. All right. So our agenda today is, I'm going to be up in front of you, I guess. And I want to do a little bit of a recap, and then we'll talk about next steps. And then after I get done with that, how I left it at the end of the meeting last March was there's still a heck of a lot of work that's going to be needed. Whether the ultimate solution is to do a dam modification or dam removal, there's a very lengthy list and a lot of effort that will need to happen to complete the project. And VHB will talk about that. And then I will end, and so will VHB, end with some of the photos that I know of from the Great Dam Project, and then there's a couple of projects of modification and removal that VHB has been involved in too, as a way to give you some examples of all this future work that I'm mentioning here. And so my recap is going to be pretty dang quick. This is a slide of our funding partners, and we're required when we have presentations or report to put those logos up there, and we thank those folks. This is one that we've been seeing all the time. Many competing issues with a dam project, whether it's modifications, removal, a lot of different interests. The Pickpocket Dam feasibility study was finalized by the end of April. It's on the town website. It was forwarded to New Hampshire DES, the stormwater program. It was the $100,000 100% forgiveness loan that we had with the stormwater portion that required the feasibility study to be completed by the end of April. Now, when I say completed, it's completed because we met all of the criteria of what we said that we were going to do. It doesn't mean discussions have to stop or new things can't happen, but we had a contract with the stormwater folks, the New Hampshire DES, and I think we can check all those boxes. And that report is being reviewed now.
More than 400 pages of report.
There you go. But
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if it's my lack of experience with the computer, but I could not get any of the maps in that report to spread out. I believe they're fold-out maps.
Yeah, some of the pages are landscape and larger.
Yeah, and the areas where the dam is
Yeah.
are somewhere off in Neverland.
all right, I'll tell you what I can do.
Is there a way to shrink them, or?
No, you won't be able to read them. So what I will do is I'll get 3 copies made of the whole report. I'll leave one with the manager's office, and I'll put 2 in the town library.
Okay. I got this from Pam, so she knows how to make it print.
Very good. We talked about the hydraulic analysis, and why we brought this up last time is because there was confusion about what storm event was being used at what time and what the purpose was, so we went through those. The takeaway with you that I want to leave with you is we have a recommendations by our consultants that we use the future flow amounts, and no use doing a dam project meeting the current requirements. Let's say climate change keeps happening, and next thing you know that we should have designed for something greater. So I'm suggesting to you that we stay with the future flow amounts, which builds into a climate change situation. We talked about alternative one, raising the dam. You see a highlight there, the gray highlight. I want to point right here. Last time it had like an L shape right in front of this residence right here. That has been changed back to this tie back to go across two properties at the request of that homeowner, that this would be a preferred way of doing it. And with that, some of the costs changed a little bit, and I can point that at the end. So this was our raising the dam scenario. Auxiliary spillway, that one was the real expensive one. And again, we got the same situation on the tie back down here on the south side of the dam. We talked about dam removal. All that stays the same. Why it was included last time was here is a conceptual of the plan view. Okay, now we get into trying to reduce the hazard classification from high hazard down to a different one, a lower one. We talked about substantial hazard, we still had a problem with Route 111, that if there was a breach, that it would go over top of that road, which made it stay at substantial hazard. Significant, sorry about that. Thank you. And if we wanted to go even further than that, then that means we would have had to put a different bridge on the state road right there at Route 111. But even to get down to significant? Low. Oh, okay. Even to get down to, no, let's stay with the significant first. We'd have to do some work on property. There's one parcel that we would have to obtain, and then there would be several mobile homes that you would require foundations and that sort of thing. So when you look at those costs and you add them to even a dam modification that you would still have to do, it's substantial costs, and those are listed there in the gray. There was talk about lowering the normal pool. We talked about that last time because there wasn't much talk previous to that back in October or November when we were talking about this. Just to recap on the raising the dam or any of the dam modifications, very small change in the 100-year flood level. 4 inches and about 5 inches and 3 inches in different locations there. If you remove the dam, that light blue line shows what the elevations were. The dark blue shows the normal stream elevations if the dam was removed. And most of that is significant there at Pickpocket Dam itself and Peters out up at Little River. the 100-year floodplain with the dam removed. You have a decent elevation difference right at the dam impoundment, but it is not so great as you go upstream. Sediment sampling results. Give me a moment here. The conclusion of the probes that were done is that there would be low or moderate ecological risk with that. Sediment transport up in this area where the Pickpocket Dam is, there's some potential of sediments migrating from there and then depositing down by 108 down by your old place, Rod.
Yeah.
This was the depths of sediments behind the Pickpocket Dam, and if it was a dam modification project, that would stay the same. If it was a dam removal project, a lot of that will be removed from the site by the contractor. Infrastructure, we already talked about there would be some decrease in the flood levels. Way back when we first started the analysis on Pickpocket, we were a little worried about Crossroad Bridge and what kind of effect that had on the hydraulics of it all, and did that even affect Pickpocket. Eventually, the conclusion was it didn't have any effect on it, but anything downstream from the Pickpocket Dam, there was no effects for the bridges. And we also talked too about right in the vicinity of the immediate impoundment, there would be some soil that would need to be stabilized with a dam removal project. And also, to keep any types of settlements from happening is to release the water slowly at the beginning of, or lower the impoundment slowly at the beginning of the project. Water supplies, found out that there would be no impact to water supplies. Culture resources, we're going to have to do it with a dam modification or a dam removal. So we're going to be tied to this. Water quality, there'll be no change in the water quality impoundment with a dam modification, but there would be improvements with a dam removal. And then we expect no change in the fish passage for a dam modification and improved fish passage for dam removal. And that picture is from this year at the bottom of Pickpocket Dam also. And I want to pause my talk a little bit. This is new stuff that just happened today to me. I saw the Fish and Game guys standing on High Street Bridge. And so I was curious. I wanted to know how things were going and stuff. And there is a good run of fish today. You can see them from String Bridge, you can see them from High Street Bridge, but they're sitting there like this. And so I waited till they were done. And I was like, what's going on? They do this like timed count, how many fish are swimming by in a certain spot, and then they extrapolate conclusions from that. And the guy got done, and he had 109 alewives that passed the shoreline in 10 minutes. So that was cool.
Saturday's going to be a good alewife day.
It is. And it wasn't the highest tide out there either. So, you know, it was still, the run of fish would be supplemented with a higher tide. So they also said that they were going up to Pickpocket right after this. And I gave them my phone number, and I said, let me know if there's any change. But before they did, they said that that there was 25 fish that had made it to the top of the fish ladder so far this year. But give me a moment to pull this out here. And so it's like, hey, Paul, this is Connor from Fish and Game. The count for the pickpocket fish weigh is up over 100 after today. This is up in the top of the fish ladder. There are hundreds below the dam. So that's a good report. Natural resources, what's going to happen to the wetland systems? And the one that I want to point out is the next to the last one is a little slash line. Primary change would be a shift in wetland cover type and potentially some loss of wetland in the periphery. So you're going to have more diversity with a dam out as compared to a dam modification, which would keep everything the same. Recreation does change a bit. It goes from less of an impoundment situation where some of those snowmobiling, skatings might be limited, but there are other opportunities also. Okay, and then we concluded with a cost analysis, and we were looking at alternative one, a dam modification, raise the dam. The other modification would be the auxiliary spillway. And we were looking at dam removal. This spillway replacement was way too expensive. And you'll see the highlights on alternatives 1, 2, and 3, and that was because of that tie-back situation where it went from the L shape, then now goes across two properties more in a linear fashion. These are the adjusted numbers from there. So the comparative numbers to look at when you look at the economics through 30 years is 3.6 for raising the dam million. 3.5 for the auxiliary spillway, or compared to dam removal, $1.5 million. So I would like to now turn it over to Mr. Jacob San Antonio, the project manager for VHB, to give his portion of the talk. And I hope that wasn't too long in trying to recap where we were last time. Thank you.
Will these slides be available on our website?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, thanks for having me. So as Paul said, Jake San Antonio. I'm actually going to be working with Pete Walker on the next portion of the presentation. So the slide up here is right now is public comments and responses. So one big addition to the draft feasibility study is that we added an Appendix H, which included both verbal and written responses to the comments received. So for the verbal comments, we tried to categorize those into general comments, provide written responses, and then for every written comment letter, email we received, we highlighted all the different comments that we got and numbered them. So for each comment letter, we numbered like this is 35, 1, 2, 3, and then provided a table corresponding to the different highlighted comments with written responses. So that's found in Appendix H of the final feasibility study.
It's 90 pages long with the last 24 pages, including these responses.
Yep. Yeah, it took some work to respond to all of them, but we thought it was valuable to do.
Yes.
We're now going to get into more of a discussion on the permitting, engineering, and construction phase with both dam modification and dam removal. And to start off, I'm going to hand it to Pete Walker to talk about the schedule, funding, getting into the permitting, and then I'll come back up to talk about the engineering and construction phases.
Thank you. Again, Pete Walker, environmental scientist with VHB, working with Jake and Stephanie and Paul on the study. And this slide, what we're attempting to do here is really speak to process and schedule at a very high level. So let me see if I can push the correct button here. Yeah, all right. So in this column, we are essentially listing some of the major steps that would be involved in the project. The first being identifying the funding. And there are really two major variables that are going to dictate the schedule. The funding is really, honestly, one of the primary drivers, one of the primary variables. The second is whatever final decision is made on the alternative to remove or retain and modify the dam. So funding is a key issue. There's quite a bit of engineering design that would need to happen. There's also a large regulatory piece that I'll speak in detail about in a moment. And then obviously there'd be the construction phase. And so in this column, what we're laying out is a rough schedule that assumes that a final decision is made to pursue the dam removal. And I think folks are generally aware there was a grant application that was submitted to NOAA I believe it was October of last year that it was submitted, or perhaps November. So we have not heard on that grant. We have checked in with NOAA. Nobody's heard. They are anticipating issuing some form of a decision. We're hopeful by the end of May, but they were unclear whether it would be end of May, beginning of June. So we should know relatively soon whether that grant is successful. If we were successful, that grant would pay for design and construction of the dam removal. And so what we're laying out here is spring 2024 funding secured in the form of the NOAA grant, which by the way requires no local match. And we'd be able to dive right into final data collection and engineering design this summer. It would take design and permitting would take us through most of 2025. So we're talking, a year and a half of design and regulatory reviews. And the idea would be we'd have permits in hand and final plans ready so that we could issue a bid package to the contracting community, solicit bids in the winter of 2025, and go to construction to remove the dam in the summer of 2026, with substantial completion that same year of 2026. The next column, what happens if the decision is made to remove the dam, but we do not get this round of NOAA funding? We're projecting it'll take about a year to go back out, raise funds, potentially through other federal grant funds. Potentially this NOAA funding doesn't necessarily get released every year, but it has been for the last several years. There's been good funding for dam removals on essentially an annual basis. So that the bottom line is, if we're unsuccessful with this grant, and we decide to remove the dam, we're pushing the schedule out by a year because we need to raise the funds, whether that's hopefully entirely supported through federal grants or perhaps other funding mechanisms. So that pushes dam removal out completion into 2027. Very similar schedule for dam modification if that's the final decision that's made. That alternative currently is not funded. There is no pending grant application. I will stress there may be an opportunity to pursue grant funds to repair or modify the dam, but I want to emphasize those grant programs are few and far between. It's very rare for any state or federal agency to fund modification or retention of a dam versus removal. The resource agencies all have funding streams to assist with restoration of rivers. So dam modification, essentially, you'll notice we've essentially showing the same schedule where we'd have to spend a year to raise funds, and then there'd be subsequent design, permitting, bid, and construction pushing into 2027. With regard to environmental permitting, There has been, obviously, we've done this feasibility study. There's been some public comment, and we've had these meetings. So there's been some public involvement, but that's just the beginning of the process. There's a number of state and federal permitting resource reviews that would need to be completed. Perhaps the dominant one, or the most important one, is under New Hampshire state law, RSA 482A. That's the Wetlands Bureau. There's a very extensive, very technical review that would need to happen for any work that would occur below the top of bank or within wetlands. I know the question about public notices have come up. This law does require a certified letter issued to direct abutters. That's a relatively small subset. There's only a couple of parcels that would be identified as abutters to the dam. So perhaps two property owners, one in Brentwood, one in Exeter, by the way. And that's actually another important point I wanted to make. Because the project, whether we remove it or we modify it, it would involve impacts. The municipal boundary is the river. So the project is located in both Exeter and Brentwood. And under state law, there would be a permitting application package that would be submitted through the Exeter town clerk as well as the Brentwood town clerk. So it would go to both communities on the same day, and the town clerks would have to follow the same process by statute. That permit application would be delivered to the Board of Selectmen in each community, the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, and then a fourth copy would be retained at the town clerk's office for public comment. That process also would require coordination with a number of other state agencies, rare species, which we know we have some identified plant and animal species, so we need to consult with the Heritage Bureau and Fish and Game. The Conservation Commission in each community would have the ability to review and issue comments to DES. It's typical for us to make presentations at that time to the various commissions. And because it's a designated river, the local advisory committee would also have a role. In fact, we would deliver a certified copy to the local advisory committee, and typically we would meet with the committee to explain the project. On top of the state law protecting wetlands, the Army Corps of Engineers also has federal law, Section 4 of the Clean Water Act. Similar, just a slight difference in, it's a federal law versus state law, but the process and the issues are substantially overlap. So I've made a note here. Most of the dam removals, the Army Corps will defer to DES to render a final decision and then issue what's known as a general permit. Sometimes it is an extended process. The federal action, I'm going to talk about SHPO in a second, and Section 106 Cultural Resource Review. It would also require us to consult with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on any aquatic impacts. It's a long list, guys, so I'm going to run through this quickly. There are other state laws that we would need to demonstrate compliance with. The DES, even though it is a DES action, it's triggered by the Army Corps permit. So anytime the federal government takes any action in the state of New Hampshire, the state has the authority to certify that the federal action either does comply or does not comply with our water quality standards. So there's a technical review for that process. Shoreland, you've probably heard of the Shoreland Water Quality Protection Act. This is the upland area adjacent to the river, outside of Wetlands Bureau jurisdiction, and it looks at stormwater, water quality, and vegetation clearing. Alteration of terrain permitting also involves a review of water quality impacts. The Dam Bureau will also need to review and approve any plan to modify or remove the dam. And back to the federal agencies, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, because there is what's known as a floodway, we're working within the floodway, which is a subset of the floodplain. We would need to prove that there would be no change in the 100-year flood elevations as a result of the proposed project. Cultural resources are also protected by federal law and state law. The federal action, in this case, the Army Corps issuing either a general permit or an individual permit, would trigger what's known as Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. And we've had some discussion, and there is discussion in the feasibility study about this issue. That process requires designation of a lead federal agency. It would almost definitely be the Army Corps of Engineers, although if NOAA is providing funding, they may assume the role of lead federal agent. There's a 4-step process to 106. We would need to initiate a consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office, which is in New Hampshire. It's the New Hampshire Division of Historic Resources. We've essentially already, we haven't begun a formal consultation, but we have completed an identification phase. So we do know that the Pickpocket Dam is eligible for listing. We have also conducted archaeological studies that found 2 sensitive areas near the dam and in the impoundment, and that archaeologist has recommended additional research, additional field studies, so that would be ongoing. Once we have a complete list of historic properties that may be affected, there would be a step where we would assess the effects of the project. And as Paul mentioned, our analysis to date suggests that either modifying the dam or removing it is going to have an effect and likely an adverse effect. And then there would be a step where we would resolve the adverse effects. So we would develop a memorandum of agreement. The town would likely be a consulting party to that process, and there would need to be mitigation to offset any adverse effect. I also want to mention the process allows for designation of consulting parties. Those would include the State Historic Preservation Office. There's no federal or state recognized tribes in New Hampshire, but there are members of the Native American community that would likely participate. Any local agency, community group, or other people with a demonstrated interest could participate in the consultation. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Jake to talk more about the design process.
Great, thank you, Pete. So, with the design process, there would be required some additional geotechnical investigations, additional topographic survey, and development of a sediment management plan. So, with the dam modification alternatives, we would require additional borings along the alignments of the tiebacks to make sure that the tiebacks are being designed into sound ground for the dam removal. We don't believe we need borings as we did with the Great Dam within the river because the probing that we did as part of the feasibility study showed we didn't, the work that we were proposing wouldn't intercept bedrock. But we would recommend taking additional soil samples within the impoundment, especially in the regions where we saw increased velocities, to make sure we're designing mitigation to prevent erosion post-dam removal. With either cases, with either dam removal or dam modification, we would also like to take additional samples of the sediments that would be removed within the impoundment and within that upstream sediment island to get better characterization on those materials for off-site disposal. As part of the engineering design, the engineering design would start off with refining the HEC-RAS models that were developed for this study, which would be refined based on the updated topographic survey and based on as the design progresses. We picture the design progressing in a standard fashion with, right now it's at a conceptual phase and would be essentially 4 main submittals growing from 30% to 60, 90 to the final 100% bid plans. Each level of those, the plans get more refined, more notes, and more descriptive so that they're refined, as in steps for town review and approval, permitting level, and then essentially bid level for contractor. The design plans would typically include existing conditions plans, demolition plans, both in-water and upland grading plans, construction sequencing, water management, stabilization, restoration plans, all the landscaping and plantings in and around the dam site and the impoundment. We'd also be developing technical specifications that go along with the design plans and an updated construction cost estimate. And to support the design and to support the permitting, we'd be developing a design basis memorandum that summarizes the basis for all of our calculations and the design of either dam modification or dam removal. Following completion of the permitting and development of those 100% contract documents and technical specs, design plans, we'd also would then work with the town on, this can be done a few ways. The way we did the Great Dam was we issued a request for qualifications from contractors. We pre-qualified three contractors for the Great Dam, and then asked them for a request for proposal, knowing that they were already pre-qualified. As this design progresses, we'd make the call whether to do this in a two-step phase or to do it in a single phase where we request qualifications and proposals at the same time. And that really will depend on the timeline of the permitting and to hit construction. With the Great Dam and with many of our other dam removal projects, we sometimes do it in the two-phase so we can keep the process moving to hit a construction schedule if the regulatory process is being delayed. Following receipt of proposals, we'd help the town review those, review the references, make a recommendation to the town for contract award. Once the town awards the contract, the engineer would be available to help during the construction process. The construction process is typically started with a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, going over all the requirements of the contract and requirements of the permits and conditions. We'll be assisting the town with contract coordination, any questions from the contractor, requests for information, helping review pay requests or any potential change orders. And we'd also be assisting the town with site visits and observations during construction to make sure the project is being built in accordance with the design plans and specifications. Following the completion of construction, we do a final project inspection, develop a punch list for the contractor before final payment is made. We're expecting with the permit conditions that there'll be 3 to 5 years of long-term monitoring to look at how the wetlands are responding and to see if, make sure the design is sound and whether any adaptation measures are required. And then this is more for dam removal, as we're not expecting with the dam modification with the options we looked at to really change the 100-year floodplain. But with dam removal, since the floodplain is changing by more than a half a foot, a letter of map revision to FEMA would be required within 6 months following completion of construction to change the flood risk maps. Now, we thought it would be helpful to go through some example dam removal photos, just to refresh everybody's memory of what this process looks like. I'm going to turn it back to Paul to talk through the Great Dam photos. I then have some photos of some dam modifications from some of my other projects and some other dam removal projects to show you.
So this is some of the geotechnical work that was done prior to the Great Dam removal. You got a crane that was lifting it up from Founder's Park, putting this barge into the river where they could do borings from it. As Jake mentioned, if this is a dam removal project, probably won't have to do much geotechnical work up at Big Pocket. We talked quite a bit today about cultural resources, Section 106 mitigations. This was one of our answers. There's many answers to how we can mitigate the removal of the dam, and we're looking at two of them. It looks like we're only looking at one, but we've got the sign there that commemorated the Great Dam, but we also have leftover headworks and the penstock right here. Through that cultural resources section of the project, I forget what you worded, the consultants, the people that were interested in, what was it called?
Consultant parties.
Consultant parties thought it would be good to have pieces of the dam remaining. We had to go back and review the hydraulics of leaving that in there, and we found out that we could, and so the design kept that portion, and that was pretty nice little saw cut right there too, right through that dam abutment. Here's a few other things. Up in the library, we have an etched glass here on the left. And the idea was you stand at a certain spot, you squint a little bit, and you line up the roofs of the houses, and you can see what the dam looked like. Well, with their latest modifications over there at the library, some of that doesn't look the same, and this has moved a little bit, so it doesn't quite line up so good. But that was the intent back at the time. We also,
When it was first installed.
When it was first installed, it worked. And over on the right side is an interpretive panel of what the dam did, the penstock, what the use was at the mills, and then some historic photos. So here's what it looks like when you draw down the impoundment. It's not a pretty thing. We had one question at the public information meeting. What's it like when you first draw down the dam? Well, that's what it looks like. A little bit mucky. It needed some cleanup, and it has smelled a little bit for a while also. Some of the construction sequencing. You have to build an access road to get down to the fish ladder, the lower fish weir of the dam itself, to be able to deconstruct it. On the upper right-hand corner, just how are we going to contain silts and stuff in the river. Down below, over by, and I don't know what the latest name of the red building is, but it was the Green Bean at one time. Maybe still is. You had this retaining wall that had some nice stones in it, but they were loose. And there is protection of revetment that was put down at the base of that. Actually, the revetment goes from there all the way up to, again, I'm dating myself, the loaf and ladle place. Okay, then we actually breached the dam. Here's the dam actually being removed, and it didn't have a whole lot of rebar in it, just at the top cap right there, so it came apart pretty easy. When you're working, well, let me go a little slower. We had to design a river bottom such that fish could pass that location. And we're talking velocities and jumps and that sort of thing. So we had to recontour the bottom of the river. And when you do that, you got to move the river to one side and let it flow. And thank goodness we had drought conditions that year. The Exeter River is actually on the left-hand side right there. What you see them digging in is just stuff that is coming up through the soils that we have to treat before getting back into the river. One of the important aspects of the Great Dam project too is some of that rock was a little bit friable, could wear away after many years. VHB designed this riffle crest right here, and these are two big boulders stacked on top of each other in a arch shape, in a horizontal arch shape, and it's connected on the other side also. That was to make sure that when the rest of the rock wears away, that the tops of those rocks stay at the same elevation and maintains the elevation upriver, because we had the water intake, the river intake for our water treatment plant is upriver, and we got to make sure that that elevation stays the same. And I'm not sure if we have a picture in here or not of the improvements we had to do at the river intake, but we did have to lower the intake screens there. Here's there in the lower right-hand corner is the replacement screen for water intake upriver of the Great Dam. This was after the impoundment was lowered. We also lowered the intake pipe, and this is the screen that goes on the end of that intake pipe. Over on the left-hand side is our DPW folks going out there and reseeding the embankments after the water was lowered up in the impoundment. And this was to establish some growth in the effort of trying to beat invasives from taking hold. And then there's a picture in the upper right that we didn't use, and this is only to give you an idea of what we were asked to when we got the NOAA grant last time, and that was only partial funding for the construction. There was a requirement to go all the way up at Pickpocket Dam and install this fish cage up there. So when it gets to the top of the fish ladder, the fish will hold right here, and it'll make it easy for these gentlemen to get in and count the fish and throw them over the top. And we had some funds built in to take care of that. However, during the construction part, and there's always a wrinkle to projects here, we had NOAA folks, Fish and Wildlife folks, DES folks walking around during construction, and it was originally designed to have one main channel that came down and did a little curve right in front of the penstock. They're kicking around a little bit, and they said, oh, we want two channels now. We don't want one. We're already halfway through construction and stuff. So with a little bit of arm wrestling and debate and a little bit of financial incentive, we were able to eliminate that fish cage at Pickpocket, and then put those funds towards that second channel down at the dam. And you can see part of that also there. And this is what it looked like right after the construction. This was during the winter time. And a couple of years later, you can see that everything's all established again. And here's a recent view, and you can see how much vegetation has reestablished itself. Okay, and with that, we'll have Jake come on up here and talk about a dam modification project.
This is a project, dam modification project. This was a project in Woburn, Massachusetts. I chose this project to show you because it was included raising a dam, but it also included replacing the low-level outlet, which, as we know from the Pickpocket Dam, that low-level outlet is already in a failed condition and leaking and is not operable. So for a dam modification, on this, they had to install, this is called a porter dam. These are steel cages that are essentially big steel elbow right angles that they lay a really thick waterproof tarp over to seal the impoundment back so that they can dewater the area to be able to do the concrete work and install a new gate. And then this is that, once it's restored and the water flowing over the new gate. This is another dam removal project that we worked on a few years ago in Dover, New Hampshire. This is the Sawyer Mill Dam. This was actually a two-stage project where there was a upper and lower dam. What we're looking at is the upper dam. The dam itself is back here. This is that same zoom in on it. And this is a view looking upstream of what that impoundment looked like. Similar photos that we showed of the Great Dam. The water management included a mixture of steel sheet piles and sandbags with polyethylene plastic laid over them. This was a stacked granite block dam, so not a concrete dam. Took a bit of work to get it to be deconstructed. Here's some photos before and after. So this was immediately after drawing down the impoundment. You can see the mucky sediments that are left behind. This was immediately after the dam removal was reconstructed, and this was a few years after. As you can start to see that the rocks and vegetation are starting to grow through. This was still a few years ago. It's now, fully established. It takes 5 to 10 years post dam removal for these areas to fully equalize. Again, some more photos of that stretch. As with the Great Dam, Sawyer Mill, we left portions of the dams to meet the Section 106 mitigation requirements and show that there was, keep the history and show there was still a dam here at the site. With that, I'll turn it back to Paul, and we'll all be available for questions.
Yeah, but before the questions, this is where I'm going to ask you guys to weigh in here. Well, first of all, I applaud this group because it was a long time getting here. Funding was always a problem until recently with some of the town ARPA funds and 2 of the grants that we had from the DES folks and the coastal folks. And back in September of last year, we had the NOAA grant come up where we discussed it with you. And through that process of should we apply for this, when I came and asked you, not only did I want, like if we did want to apply for it, that there was a statement that this is a preferred option. And so that, I thought I had from you guys a preferred option. And we had some data, but now we've got a heck of a lot more. The full feasibility study is done. And I guess I'm going to start with, is it still the preferred option there? But with that, I'll stop talking and see if you have any questions.
Yes.
We're talking 2 towns. Will the town line be reestablished? Right now, it's the river. Probably the flow of the river, I think, is the technical phrase. Is anyone going to figure out where it is?
No, the river's going to stay right where it's at, and the town line will stay right where it's at.
The town line is actually the center of the river.
Center of the river is a nice phrase. But as we lower the river level several feet, the town line may be moving. The banks may not be perfectly parallel.
Well,
We're going to know where it winds up is?
that's assuming that there's a dam removal
Yeah,
project.
if there is a dam removal.
Okay. And you saw the preliminary sketch up there too.
Oh, I've seen them.
And then you could see that the center of the river is still staying right where it is.
All the way up?
Exeter doesn't go all the way up.
Goes up a little ways.
Okay.
Goes up through my property. It stops partway through my property. The other question is, this was all referring to the town. What's Brentwood's involvement going to be?
Can you say that again? I didn't
What is
hear.
Brentwood's involvement going to be in this process?
Oh, we talked about which process now? The dam, you got a couple of options going on here. What are you talking about?
All the work we're talking about today, we refer to the town,
Yes,
as if Exeter was the only town involved.
yes.
You know, town of,
Yeah, now permitting is going to be required for both of them. Without a doubt, and probably the most important one is going to be the New Hampshire wetlands. And it was up here on the slide that both towns, Conservation Commission would have to, or town clerk would have to get involved with that. So right off the bat, they're going to be involvement with both.
anything where you mentioned town commissions, we're doing both towns.
You'd have to go through the wetland process with notifications to both towns, correct?
Town line precise is another question that gets into old survey law.
Okay. With that, we can, I don't have slides to pull up right now to see what the river looks like. Well, do I with Dam Mountain?
I don't think there's any slide that show the town line in that.
Oh, it doesn't show the town line.
I don't think there's anything in there that shows the town line.
No.
Okay.
I mean, the town line is also based on the survey and, GIS data layers. Surveyor or lawyer would need to pontificate on how that is set.
Changes to the town line, that was beyond the scope of this project, and I would say a surveyor or lawyer would need to answer that question.
It's not change, it's just location. Well, that probably goes back to.
I don't know
before the
enough
dam.
about what the actual statutes or whatever that set where the boundary is, so I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Say, Paul, I understand there was a meeting yesterday with the folks from Brentwood.
I'm going to pass that one right off.
I thought you would.
Good afternoon, Rustine, Town Manager. Yes, Lionel, on Monday, the Chair of the Board, myself, Assistant Town Manager, Karen Clement from the Town Administrator from Brentwood, and the Chair of the Brentwood Board did meet and had a conversation and engaged in a very cordial, I'd say, exchange of information about the project. So we did meet.
So we've started talking.
Yes, we have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Paul, can you remind us the amount of the grant that we've applied for?
We applied for a $2 million, just under $2 million grant from NOAA. That's the only one we applied for.
Okay, so in the dam removal cost estimate is 1.5 million. So basically, if we do get the award that we've, if we get the grant that we've applied for, dam removal could proceed at essentially zero cost to the town or taxpayer?
That was an important aspect of applying for that, yes.
Okay.
And the difference between the 1.5 million and the 1.92 million we requested is we've the numbers were presented today are based on present value costs, so they're today's dollars.
Yep.
As you saw, construction was slated for 2026, so we built in
Yep.
escalation into that to account, so the town would have enough money for, to fully pay for design and construction.
So, okay, so just to be clear, we're talking about a dam removal project at essentially zero cost, or a dam improvement project at a cost of somewhere around $3 to $3.5 million to the town. Okay, thanks.
Assuming the dam is the grant is successful.
Yes, yep.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gathering that the role of the River Advisory Committee is to, in some sense, advise the Select Board of what we think is the best solution, given this 400-page study. So I'm guessing that we could do a roll call, and we could say whether we favor alternative 1, 3, or 4, or whether we feel that we should abstain. Is that,
There's one thing, I'm still curious about what Brentwood wants to do,
yes.
which is an option which we're not discussing. If Brentwood wants to roll in and play part of the role here, it makes a big difference. We're going to still put one, if they, I don't know the numbers how to work out, but I think we should wait until we have more from, Russ, you going to talk to him again?
We're certainly open to doing that. There's no reservation that we have for talking with them again. We did approach that issue. We talked about it briefly as far as cost sharing or some kind of arrangement in that fashion, but the conversations weren't very much in depth. They were just cursory.
So are they aware of this study, and have they had a chance to see a copy of?
Yes, their administration is aware of it and
Okay.
knows how to locate it and so forth.
And did they express thoughts about alternative 1, 3, or 4?
Not specifically, no.
Not specific.
No.
Oh, there's a hand in the audience there.
Robert Spann, I live in Brentwood. I'm not representing the town of Brentwood, I'm speaking as an individual, but I thought it might be useful for you to have some public comment before you make a decision. There is a letter that was sent to Mr. Dean from Karen Clement, the town administrator of Brentwood, and this was following the questions I think Mr. Ingram raised at the last meeting about what does Brentwood think. And I don't know, I was not at the meeting the other day, and again, I don't speak for the town of Brentwood, but I would like to read this. I don't know if you've seen this letter.
I don't believe I have.
If I may, I'll just read it. It's brief.
Okay.
This is dated March 27, 2024, to Russell Dean from Karen Clement. Mr. Dean, last fall, Brentwood asked what Exeter's intent was and requested a collaborative approach to Brentwood and its residents. You have been sending updates and meeting and agenda notices, which we appreciate and would hope to continue. We have reviewed the final Exeter River Study Report by VHB. Now, that was actually not the final. That was the draft feasibility study that was posted on Exeter's website on February 20. It has become clear that potential damage to properties in Brentwood due to dam removal will be significant. Specifically, we refer to the sections of the report that outline the loss of wetlands, wildlife habitat and corridors, recreation, changes to 15 conservation easements, as well as private properties along the river up to Hague Road. We understand decisions will be announced by July 1, 2024. Representatives from the Brentwood Select Board, Brentwood Conservation Commission, or any other stakeholders in Brentwood would like to be included in all current and future ongoing discussions prior to any notice from NOAA regarding whether the grant will be approved. If the grant is awarded to Exeter, Brentwood would like to be an integral part of any deliberation process and planning before a decision is made to accept the grant. We appreciate your efforts in working together to determine the best outcome with the least impact to our environment and residents. Sincerely. So, I appreciate the fact that there was a meeting on Monday, but I will say there was no notice of this meeting other than what was posted on the Exeter website. I believe I'm correct. I don't believe that there's been notice of this meeting to abutters in Exeter or Brentwood, or any official notice to anyone other than, again, the posting. So you're being asked to take action today to indicate a preferred option based on a 400-page report with 90 pages of comments. And 9 days after that was posted, I think you would be acting in haste and without full input from people who have made comments at the public meeting in February, but have not had an opportunity yet to see and review the responses to those comments and respond to those. So it seems to me that this is a rush, which is unnecessary and unfair. Thank you. Oh, I did have, if I may, I did have a question for Mr. Watson? Walker, I'm sorry. As part of the permitting process, because there is a federal grant involved, if it's dam removal, is there a NEPA review necessary?
There is a programmatic NEPA approval for all of those NOAA federal grants. So essentially, there's a programmatic review of the grant program ahead of time. So it wouldn't trigger any individual NEPA review. There's an internal environmental review that NOAA would conduct.
Let me ask Paul, do we think we're going to have a June 20th or July 18th meeting of the River Advisory Committee?
I'm trying to think of the dates you just said, June 20th?
Those are the third Thursdays in June and July.
So it all depends on what kind of decisions you make today.
Well, that was my question. Is it conceivable that we could delay a decision because we don't yet know if the grant for removal is going to be accepted? Is there a reason why the select board needs to hear from us right now?
Well, we have the,
July 1st.
yeah, but what's the name of that?
Request for action.
Yeah, we have the request for action, which took the place of the letter of deficiency that called out June 1st is when we were supposed to report back to New Hampshire DES on the decision. If we're working on a decision and stuff, I think we can delay that. I did have a conversation with Steve Doyon from the New Hampshire Dam Bureau just this morning. And it goes, as long as we are working on a solution here and you need a little extra time, just keep periodically reporting back to them. So we were trying to meet that June 1st deadline. And so the closer we can keep to that, the better off that I think we are.
Well, if we delayed until June 20th, which is the third Thursday, would there be opportunity for Brentwood to participate and offer their interest, in their opinions, their notion about which of these alternatives is favorable?
Well,
I believe that each of these alternatives affects the stakeholders who live very close to it in ways that they would have to adapt to. I think that's what I
Yeah, I'm
understand.
just, I'm not quite I'm following you, but I'm not,
Yeah.
got the thought process there. So if the town manager just now said that Brentwood is aware of this meeting today, and that we're going to be discussing the preferred alternatives, there's nobody here.
Yeah. He wants to see.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. The other thing I wanted to say, too, is that we've had 3 to 4 public meetings with extensive public comment and involvement. We've been able to get those comments, and we've responded in the record. So I just wanted to say that we've accepted many, many comments and have generated many, many responses since the process started.
So Russ, let me ask you, we have no idea what their preference is. We have an idea that those people who are going to be immediately impacted by where the water is, they're concerned. But I would imagine there's a large population over there that has no interest in this at all. So we're hearing from the people who are impacted immediately, but not those who are going to be impacted if they get involved paying for the dam. So I think we have to and from my view, Brentwood is a bunch of people concerned about water. I would imagine their select board, Brentwood is about a lot of people who are not necessarily concerned about the water. And so that would have, if I had some feel for Brentwood's sensing, I'd have a better feel for a decision that I'd like to make. I have a preference, but I think I'd like to have something from Brentwood. Would they be able to pass a warrant article that would allow us to work with them and pay less? Or if it's not likely to do that, then the solution is ours to take care of.
Yeah, and we didn't get into a discussion about warrant articles or anything specific to that regard.
I think that's the problem that we have here. We have preferences, but I'd like to have some sense of which way Brentwood's going to go.
So I'll let you continue your deliberation.
Yeah.
I don't want to represent the town.
I know you
Brentwood.
can't, yes.
Well, let me ask our group, do we want to register our current opinion about which alternative is favorable in our notions of how this works?
Dick, can I just jump in at the tail end of that last comment there? That and thank you, Russ, for jumping up here and clarifying everything. The grant decision hasn't been made yet. And I probably would expect that they would be wanting to know the outcome of this meeting right now, because, you know, we did mention that dam removal was a preferred option, and that's how I ended my talk. And is it the same? So I think the more that we delay a decision, our chances for the NOAA grant decline. Thank you.
And the complication is that there's 10 other grants you can apply for different things in this report. It's amazing. I'm hearing that we should go ahead and do a roll call vote of our current favored alternatives.
Because essentially, we are Exeter people.
Yeah.
It's our voters that we are concerned about. I'm interested in the Brentwood's concerns, but if I vote to say that we want to go something and pay a $3 million or $1.5 million, and we could have gotten by with nothing, no cost, that's a preferred option for Exeter. And so I think that's what we are asking, preferred option for Exeter, and I know my answer is.
Okay, shall we proceed with the roll call vote?
What are we voting on?
We're asking each person on the committee, what is your preferred alternative? 1, 3, 4, or abstain?
I'm not familiar with 1, 3, or 4. Can we say for removal or for improvement, something to that effect?
Alternative 1 is raising the dam. Alternative 3 is the spillway, I believe.
Okay.
And alternative 4 is removing the dam.
And while Paul flips through the slides, is this a roll call to take the preference of each committee member for a recommendation to the select board?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I'm guessing we're doing. We're saying to the select board, this is in our role as advisory committee, River Advisory Committee, our advice is that this is what I favor as the option, based on this feasibility study that is amazing.
Then if that's what we're doing, and I'm just going to explain, when it comes to me, I'm going to abstain today because I will be taking this up as a select board member, and I'm just going to abstain for today. So I just want to explain that for the record before we do the roll call.
Are we ready to proceed? Okay.
Alternative 4, dam removal?
You want to state your name for the recording secretaries?
Sure. Warren Biggins, alternative 4.
Rod Borden, and from living right literally next to the river for 36 years, I know the concerns of Brentwood and Exeter. I know what a flood can do to buildings and property, but I know the concerns of what they are looking at, but I say remove the dam.
Lionel Ingram, remove the dam.
Richard Huber, remove the dam.
Nico Papakostadis, abstain.
Daniel Jones, abstain.
Trevor Matera, alternative 4, remove the dam.
Thank you. So I believe we have concluded what we needed to do for to advise the select board. Okay, on the agenda, there is other business. Not seeing any other business. There's public comment. Any additional public comment? There's one.
I just have a quick question. So there was Nick Drinker, 26 Franklin Street. Just a question. So there were 4 votes to remove. Does that mean the committee votes for the removal, or how many yes votes?
You had 5 votes, 5
So
yay,
you're 1 short.
2 abstain. No, you have 7. You have 7 committee members. You have more than a quorum.
Right.
So
you had 4 yes.
5.
Oh, 5. I'm sorry, I missed 1. Forgive me.
That's okay.
Thank you.
And one person has had to leave early, so we had one other person here before.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah.
I have a question for Mr. Vlasic. When the dam is removed, will there be a historical sign put in my property that said there used to be a river here, and there used to be turtles, and there used to be wildlife? Can I get that sign? Maybe some photos of the way it used to look?
No, Brentwood's got to put that sign up, I'm sorry. It's your property.
Okay, do I have a
Want a
motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Lionel motioned and Nico seconded. Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Okay, we're good.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, We invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.